All right, a brief little discussion about strategy, and I might skip over kind of some of this. I'd like to teach a course on strategy, but you guys probably don't want to listen to a full course on strategy. So, a strategic plan might consist of a vision or mission statement, right? In the real world, certainly it would. A SWOT analysis, although I like other analyses as well or better than the SWOT analysis, not that it's bad. Then tactical and functional area plans, and yeah, I'll talk about that a little more as we go along. Michael Porter argues for a top-down view. He says that leaders, right, create strategies and then they get everybody to buy in, and that's what an effective leader does. Okay, Eric Banabu, who I'm not that familiar with, but he says maybe it should start from the bottom up. Okay, and oftentimes that can be the case, right? As some of those people that are on the front lines, are really the ones meeting with the customers and have an idea what the customers really want and need. The two, I would say the two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, right? That, learning what the customers need through your troops can be an important part of then formalizing a strategy and getting everybody else to buy in. But in any event, here's our right. So our mission statement can be timeless. Just do it. Nike. Okay. The strategy, 3 to 5 years or longer. I would argue that it could be longer. Operational intents and our tactics, these really are going to come together because they're kind of 1 year, and the decisions that we're going to make are effectively a year at a time, right? But tactics would typically be more day-to-day. Operational would be like the budgets and those things that you would set for the next year, give you some ideas about what you're going to do, and then you would do tactics day-to-day to try to do those. So there's really, and I would kind of argue typically and that's the case here too, there's really two main strategies. You can either be a cost leader or you can be a differentiator. Okay. Walmart we'd throw into the category of cost leader. Doesn't always mean they have the lowest prices, even though they say they do, right? Okay, Costco is a cost leader. Okay, again, it doesn't always mean they have the lowest prices, but it means that they are striving hard to get their products to the shelves at the lowest cost. Okay, doesn't mean that they'll sell it to you for the lowest cost, but they want to get it to their shelf for the lowest cost. Okay. And the other is a differentiator, and a differentiator deals more with they don't really care. I shouldn't say they don't care about the cost. They absolutely care about the cost, but they certainly don't care about the price that they charge the customers. A low-cost operator typically would care about the price, but they're not necessarily the low price. Okay, a differentiator doesn't care so much about the price. They're not competitive on price, I should say. Apple is probably a good example of a differentiator. In that same vein, Samsung's probably the low cost. They're trying to make their phones for a little less and get them out to customers for a lot less money. Okay, and you can look at some customer segments or some companies and whatnot, or industries that I think that we have out there, and you can probably find different companies that compete in using different strategies, whether it's cost or whether it's differentiation. Retail is maybe especially good like that, but so would restaurants, right? What's McDonald's? Well, they're probably a low cost, right? They're trying to get stuff out the door relatively cheaply. Okay. On the other hand, on the other end is what's a real high Ruth Chris Steakhouse. Real high end. Okay. Different things. Onward. So Porter Kerr, again, some of these I'm probably going to stick or I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time on, but basically what I want to do is just generalize this and say that don't be in between. Okay, and when you start the game, I bet that most of the teams will choose in between. Okay, ultimately the team that wins this competition and does well on a week-to-week basis is a team that most aggressively, but not recklessly, goes after its strategy. Okay, and that can start at the beginning. Every team. Okay, you guys will have this conversation. I guarantee it. And probably 5 out of the 6 teams will do this. They'll say, "Well, it's the first round, and I just kind of want to see how it goes." Okay, and that's a losing tactic. Okay, you'll lose. The team that maybe looks at this and says, "Hey, we want to be the low-cost team. What do we have to do to be the low-cost team?" We don't want to necessarily go crazy with our projections. We don't want to necessarily be nutso about lowering our costs the first round, but we want to definitely get a good start on that. And so what are the things that we need to do, and let's do them. Okay, that's what you got to do in this game. And I know it's kind of scary in this first round, but it's scary in real life too, and there you're talking about real money and whatnot. I'm going to tell you, take a little, it's not even really a chance, but it's spend the time, to develop a little bit of your tactics to fit the strategy that you're going to choose. This kind of talks about, companies that just kind of, they don't know what they're doing. They're kind of like a sofa bed. It's not a great sofa, not a great bed. And, some people might still kind of buy it, but it's just not a great thing, right? The Boston Consulting Group, they kind of picked some things out like this, right? They're saying, boy, if you've got a product that has huge market growth and you've got a high market share, that's a star, right? If the market growth is huge, but you've got a low market share, it's a little bit of a question mark, okay? But there are folks that build niches here and do okay. Now, if there's low market growth and you've got high market share, that's a cash cow. Okay, that's a cash cow, and there's companies out there that do that. I think maybe some pharmaceutical companies, it can just be real cash cows, even though they're low growth. And then if you got low market share and low growth, that's a dog. And I'm going to kind of walk through this a little bit. Situation analysis, I had you guys look at that. So let's talk about the 6 different ones. So you can be an overall cost leader. Okay, again, these are either cost leader or differentiator. So an overall cost leader is not likely to introduce new products. All right. Not going to increase capacity unless you absolutely need to. Automation may be pursued, okay, and I'd almost say automation must be pursued to increase margins if you're going to stay competitive. Okay, investments are going to be financed with debt and or stock issues. Again, based on my scoring system, be careful, and also based on what I've told you in classes that I've had you in before, which is cheaper, debt or equity. Answer that question when you think about that. They tend to spend a little less maybe on promotion and sales, but tend to maybe try to pick that up with pricing a little bit, right? Focus on market share, profits and stock price, which they all kind of will do a little bit. So cost leader with a low tech focus. So instead of concentrating on the high or even spending a lot of time at all on the high performance and size, what you do then is you'll have multiple product lines in the low tech segment, so low and traditional. So you might allow your performance and size and high end products to kind of drift. That's a little bit of a misnomer because the market demand is actually drifting, but in a sense you can allow your products to drift into the low and traditional segments. So instead of having 5 products in 5 different segments, you might have 5 products in the 2 different segments. Probably don't, again, spend money on capacity unless you need it in those low areas, but you're going to have lots of products down there, remember? Okay, might spend some money on advertising, okay? Debt, stock issues, sure, and we focus on those things. I wouldn't pay much attention to the bottom here because you're going to end up focusing on what I score you on probably. So cost leader with product life cycle focus. Well, this is the the team then, and they might introduce a new product periodically, but what they're going to concentrate on is those 3 products that are if you drew a straight line from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, the 3 products that are in there, it's the low, traditional, and high. They're not going to worry about the performance and size, and in fact they may just get rid of those products, but they might introduce a new product periodically. Okay, and then what they do is instead of spending a lot of money on R&D, they kind of leave their products in place, Now you have to spend a little bit on R&D. You have to change your products at least a little bit, where the ages might get too old. Okay, especially in the traditional segment where you don't want to be more than 2 years old. Okay, but you just kind of allow your product, again, a bit of a misnomer, but to drift backward without spending money then on R&D. Okay, so you save a lot of money in that way. You invest in automation early, okay, in the product's life cycle, okay, and then enjoy those benefits over time. Okay, differentiator, right? And we can be how come I only have the one there? Differentiator with a high-tech focus. So here again, you might allow or get rid of the low-end traditional products. Just allow them to drift out. That doesn't mean you get rid of them right away. You might take advantage of them and sell some until they become uncompetitive, right? And then you let them go, acknowledging that as you're not investing any money into them, your sales in those products may decrease. So you got to kind of be aware of that when you're making your forecast. But then you're concentrating, especially you get to sell capacity in the low and traditional end then, right? You don't need it. And instead you take that money maybe and you invest that in R&D or other things in the high performance and size categories, okay, to be really competitive up there. Differentiator with product life cycle focus. Was that first one a broad differentiator? It didn't say. I think that's what this one's supposed to be, is a broad differentiator, right? And so you maintain your position in all 5 segments, okay? You try to differentiate yourself in all 5 segments. Now, again, each segment's different, so you have to follow the customer buying criteria, follow the customer buying criteria in each segment. It's different for each segment, okay? And try to position your product, you know, in the ideal spots, okay, or ahead of the ideal spots just a little bit, and compete on not so much pricing in the high end, but maybe in the low end, right? You're just positioning yourself in every single segment where the customer wants you to be. About that. And then differentiator with product lifecycle focus. This is the most difficult one for me to explain, and honestly, I have not had student teams that have done particularly well when they've done this one. I'm not telling you can't do this one. I'm just telling you this one's a little bit more difficult, because I can understand why you would have low cost in this life cycle focus, you know, because you can let those drift and you're saving money on R&D and whatnot. I find that a little bit more difficult to do here with the product that you're trying to differentiate. I don't know how you keep it fresh and allow it to drift back at the same time. If you guys figure that out, let me know. I'm not going to talk much more about that one. Okay, strategy. Again, the team that other than the last one that I just talked about, the other 5 I've seen be very successful with teams, and the team that picks a strategy and most aggressively but not recklessly goes after that strategy will be the most successful team. Poor tactics can undermine a good strategy, of course. Good tactics can overcome a poor strategy. No magic bullet, right? Planning, strategic alignment, all those things, absolutely. Okay, I do want you guys to submit your strategy before your decisions next Tuesday. I'll try to put that in the email as well, but just a simple email to me says, hey, we're going to be a broad differentiator, okay? Or a low-cost provider, you know, low-cost life cycle or low-cost niche, something like that.